I almost didn't go on that date. I'm glad I did. And then I really wished I hadn't. I'm 26. At the time this happened, I was living in Atlanta, Georgia, working as a dental hygienist. Decent apartment, good job, pretty normal life. I'd been on dating apps since I was 23. Nothing crazy. Just the usual cycle of matches, small talk, the occasional decent date, and a lot of people who look nothing like their photos. I matched with a guy I'll call Marcus in the spring. Late 20s, software developer, good photos. Not model level, just normal attractive. Smiled with his eyes. His bio said he liked documentary films, cooking actual meals, and his sister's dog, who he described as a furry idiot. That detail made me laugh out loud. Real people mention their sister's dog. Fake profiles say they enjoy long walks on the beach. We talked for 2 weeks. Easy conversation. He remembered things I mentioned in passing. That I hated cilantro. That I'd been to Portugal once and wanted to go back. He asked follow-up questions. He wasn't trying to impress me, just genuinely listening. By the end of week 2, I was genuinely excited to meet him. Our first date was dinner at a Thai place in Midtown. He was already there when I arrived, which I noticed. Men who arrive first on dates make me feel safe. It's a small thing, but it matters. He stood up when I got to the table. We talked for 3 hours. He walked me to my car, hugged me, said he had a great time, and he'd text me tomorrow. He texted me that night. Not tomorrow, that night. Just said he was glad we finally met. I went home smiling. I was already thinking about the second date. The second date was 2 weeks later. He suggested a farmer's market on a Saturday morning, which I thought was perfect. Low pressure, daytime, public, easy to leave if it got weird. It wasn't weird at all. We got coffee, walked around for 2 hours. He bought me a small jar of local honey because I'd mentioned offhand that I put honey in my tea. I didn't remember telling him that. He said I'd mentioned it on our first date. He was paying attention. Real attention. After the farmer's market, he asked if I wanted to grab lunch. I said yes. After lunch, he walked me to my car again. This time, he asked if he could see me again and if I was free the following Saturday. I said yes to both. I drove home feeling something I hadn't felt in a while. That specific warmth of things going the right direction, I should have felt that way. Everything on the surface was exactly right. That's the thing I keep coming back to. Everything on the surface. The third date was dinner at his place. I know that sounds like I skipped steps. But after a month of texting and 2 genuinely good dates, it didn't feel rushed. He'd been consistent, respectful, patient. He gave me his address days in advance. I sent it to my friend Keisha before I left, with a note that said, "If I don't text you by 10 p.m., call me." She sent back a thumbs up. His apartment was nice, clean in a real way, not a company's coming way. Books on actual shelves, not staged. A kitchen that smelled like garlic and olive oil. He cooked pasta from scratch, not from a box, from scratch. We ate at his kitchen table with a candle he lit without making it a production. After dinner, we moved to the couch. He pulled up a documentary on his laptop, something about deep-sea creatures, which sounds odd for a date, but honestly was perfect. He tilted the laptop toward me so I could see better, and that's when I saw it. His laptop screen, while he was pulling up the documentary, briefly showed his desktop. Just for 2 or 3 seconds before he opened the browser, there was a folder on his desktop. The folder was labeled with my first name. Not his name, not a project title. My name. I didn't react. I don't know how I didn't react. I just felt the bottom of something drop out while my face stayed completely normal. The documentary started. I watched it. I laughed at the right moments. I held a conversation. My body was in that room doing everything right, while my brain was somewhere else entirely, running through what I'd just seen. Why did he have a folder with my name on it? I thought about it from every angle while a narrator described bioluminescent fish. Maybe it was something flattering, a playlist he'd made, a restaurant list for date ideas. Maybe I was catastrophizing. Maybe it was completely innocent. But the more I sat with it, the more I understood that innocent people don't label folders after someone they've been on 2 dates with. At 9 o'clock, I said I had an early morning and needed to head out. He walked me to the door, said he had a great time, said good night. Normal, warm. exactly the way every other evening had ended. I texted Keisha from the car before I started the engine. I told her what I'd seen. She called me back in 30 seconds. She said the same thing I was thinking. You need to know what's in that folder. I didn't go back inside. I drove home, but I started doing the thing you do when something feels wrong. I started looking backward at everything. I went through our text history looking for anything I'd missed, scrolled back weeks, and I found something small that I'd completely forgotten. In our second week of talking, he'd asked what neighborhood I lived in. I'd said East Atlanta. Casual, normal conversation. A week later, he'd asked what gym I went to. I'd said the name without thinking. The week after that, he'd asked what time I usually finished work. Each question on its own was nothing. Together, they were a map: neighborhood, gym, work schedule. He had been building a picture of my daily life since before we'd ever met in person. I called Keisha back and read her the questions in order. She went quiet for a second. Then she said, Mia, that's not small talk. That's research. I didn't confront him. I know some people would have, and I understand why. But I also knew that confronting someone you've now realized might be dangerous is not the safe choice. Instead, I talked to my cousin, who is a detective in Fulton County. I described everything: the questions, the folder, the timeline. He asked me something that stopped me cold. He said, "Does he know your last name?" I thought about it. My profile had only my first name. I'd never told him my last name. My cousin said, "Search your first name, plus your gym's name, plus East Atlanta, and see what comes up." I did it right there on the phone. My gym's member spotlight page came up first, from 8 months ago. My first name, my photo, my neighborhood mentioned in the blurb, one search. 30 seconds. My name, my face, my area, all public, all findable. My cousin said the folder could be innocent, but the pattern of questions wasn't. He said to trust the feeling and to create distance carefully, not suddenly, not dramatically, just gradually less available. Don't give someone a reason to feel rejected sharply if you're not sure what they're capable of. I followed his advice. I replied to Marcus's texts less quickly, said I was busy. After a week, I said I'd been thinking, and I didn't feel a romantic connection, but I'd had a really nice time getting to know him. Polite, gentle, final. He replied once. Just said, "Well, that's too bad. I thought we had something," then nothing. No follow-up text. No showing up. No escalation. Maybe I'd been wrong about the folder. Maybe it really had been something innocent that I'd never get to know the answer to. But here's the thing. I'll never know what was in it. And I've made peace with that, because 2 months later, I ran into a woman at a mutual friend's birthday party who recognized my description of him. She'd matched with him too, also in Atlanta. She'd also been to his apartment. She also remembered him asking, casually, conversationally, over weeks, questions about her schedule and her neighborhood. She said she hadn't seen anything alarming, but she'd had a feeling she couldn't name and had stopped responding. 2 women. Same man, same questions, same apartment, same feeling. The folder on his desktop had my name on it. I have to believe hers was on there somewhere too. I deleted my profiles for 3 months after that. When I came back, I changed my settings. First name only, no neighborhood mentioned, no gym tagged in any post I'd made public. I did a full audit of what a stranger could find about me in 5 minutes online. It was more than I expected. Way more. I'm more careful now. Not paranoid, just careful. There's a difference. And whenever someone on an app asks me what gym I go to before we've even met, I give them the name of one across town. Some questions aren't small talk. Some of them are just the beginning of a map. Story 2. She sent me a photo I never gave her. The date was fine. The photo she sent me afterward was the moment everything fell apart. I'm 31. I work in logistics management in Columbus, Ohio. Normal job, normal apartment, normal life. I've used dating apps on and off for about 4 years. I'm not someone who gets rattled easily. I'm pretty level-headed, pretty hard to spook. I say that because I want you to understand that what happened to me didn't feel like a horror story while it was happening. It felt like small, confusing moments that added up to something I couldn't ignore. I matched with a woman I'll call Diane, early 30s. worked in pharmaceutical sales, based about 20 minutes outside Columbus. Her profile was real-looking, candid photos, no filters stacked on filters, a bio that had actual punctuation. We chatted for about 10 days. She was sharp and funny. We had a similar sense of humor. The conversations never dragged. We met for drinks on a Wednesday evening at a bar in the short north. She was exactly her photos. We talked easily, had 2 rounds, closed out the tab after about 90 minutes. Not a long date, but a good one. She suggested we do it again. I said I'd like that. I drove home feeling good about it. Texted her when I got in and said I had a great time. She texted back immediately and said, the same, normal first date, everything normal. The next morning she sent a text that said, morning, hope the drive-in wasn't too bad. I thought it was a general comment. Said drive was fine, thanks, she replied. That construction on 5th always makes it a nightmare, right? I paused. I hadn't told her I took 5th Avenue to work. I hadn't mentioned my route or my commute. I told myself she was probably guessing. 5th Avenue was a known construction headache that month. Local news had covered it. If she lived in the area, she'd know it. I let it go. 3 days later, we texted back and forth through the evening. At some point, she mentioned she'd been near my area that day running errands. I asked what she'd been doing over there. She said picking up dry cleaning and grabbing lunch. Normal. Fine. That night, she sent a photo. Just a general look at this sunset type photo. I looked at it and responded. Then I looked at it again. In the background of her sunset photo, barely visible on the right edge of the frame, was the front of a building I recognized. My building. Not a building that looked like mine. My actual building. I knew the specific brickwork, the green awning, the way the parking sign was positioned at the corner. I'd looked at that corner hundreds of times from my own driveway. She'd taken a photo outside my apartment building and sent it to me captioned as a sunset picture. My address wasn't anywhere on my profile. I'd never mentioned my building, my street, or my neighborhood. I'd driven to the bar we'd met at. She had no reason to follow me home. But the construction comment in the morning made a different kind of sense now. She hadn't been guessing about 5th Avenue. She knew my route because she'd been on it. I sat with my phone in my hand for a long time staring at that photo. I didn't respond that night. I said I'd fallen asleep and texted in the morning like normal. I needed to think. The next day I called my friend Rob, who works in cybersecurity. I described the situation without sending him the photo first, just described it verbally. He asked me a question I hadn't thought of. He asked if my car was visible from the street in front of my building. It was. I parked in a small open lot adjacent to the building, visible from the sidewalk. He asked if I'd ever posted a photo online that included my car, the make, model, or plates. I thought about it. My Instagram was public. I'd posted a photo from a road trip 2 years ago that had the back of my car in the frame. Ohio plate partially visible. He said that was likely how she found the building. She had my first name, my general vibe, my car type from the photo I'd taken driving to the date, and a rough area from knowing I took 5th Avenue, with a partial plate and a make and model that's doable in a couple of hours of driving the right streets. I asked him if he was serious. He said he was very serious and that I needed to stop responding and document everything. Before I did anything else, I documented it all. Screenshots of every conversation. The photo with my building in the background. I sent them to Rob and he confirmed what I'd seen. He zoomed into the background and matched the green awning to the corner of my building on Google Street View. Exact match. Oh, stop texting, Diane. I went from daily conversation to nothing over about 3 days. She noticed immediately. The messages came faster when I went quiet. First just checking in, then asking if she'd said something wrong. Then a long message about how she felt like she'd opened up and was confused by the silence. Then a shorter message that said simply, I know where you are. I read that last one 4 times. It could have been a reference to something else. It could have been a weird turn of phrase. But combined with everything else, it didn't read that way. It read exactly how it sounded. I filed a police report that morning. The officer I spoke to took it seriously, specifically because of that last message. He said, I know where you are, in context with documented surveillance-style behavior, was enough to log as a credible threat report. He said to block all contact and to let them know if she made any direct approach. I moved my car to a different parking area that week, a covered garage 2 blocks away that wasn't visible from the street. She sent one more message from a different number before I blocked everything. It said, "I wasn't trying to scare you. I just liked you." I've thought about that message a lot. I actually believe it was true in her mind. I believe she thought that tracking my building, learning my route, taking a photo outside my home was an expression of interest rather than what it actually was. That's what makes it the most unsettling part. It wasn't malicious in her own perception. It was just what she did when she liked someone. I've made my Instagram private since then. The road trip photo is gone. My car isn't in any public post. My profile photos are all taken indoors or at places with no identifying landmarks visible in the background. I went through every photo I'd ever posted publicly and looked at them the way a stranger would. What street corner is that? What building is that in the background? What does the license plate say? It took 4 hours. I found 8 photos I deleted. 8 photos that told a story I didn't realize I was telling. Most of us share our lives online without thinking about what we're actually sharing. We just think it's a photo, a sunset, a road trip. A nice morning. We don't think about what's in the corners. We should. Story 3. He knew things I'd only said out loud. He referenced something I had never typed, never texted, never put in writing anywhere. And that's when I understood how long this had actually been going on. I'm 29. I'm a physical therapist in Nashville, Tennessee. I've lived there for 4 years, moved from Louisville for work. I like Nashville, but I don't have the deep social roots I had back home, so dating apps were genuinely how I met people. Not as a last resort and just as the practical option when you're new somewhere and work 60% of your waking hours. I matched with a guy I'll call Jordan. He was 32, worked in real estate, pleasant face, profile that read like a normal person wrote it. We talked for about a week and a half. He asked good questions, not surface-level questions, actual questions. He wanted to know what I found rewarding about physical therapy, not just, do you like your job? He remembered I mentioned a patient milestone I was proud of and asked about it 3 days later. It felt like he was paying real attention. We met for dinner on a Friday. Italian place near Midtown. The date was good, not fireworks, but solid. He was easy to talk to, present, not on his phone. At the end of the night, he said he'd like to do this again, and I said I would too. We had a second date the following Friday. Walk along the river, then drinks at a rooftop bar. Also good, he was consistent. Same energy in person as in texts. No sudden weirdness, nothing that felt off. The third date was about 3 weeks into knowing each other. Brunch on a Sunday. We sat outside. It was a warm afternoon. I was relaxed and comfortable, in a way that takes me a while to get to with someone new, and then he said something that made the whole afternoon go wrong. He mentioned a conversation I'd had with my co-worker, not a conversation I'd told him about, a specific exchange I'd had out loud at work, in my clinic in a back hallway, about a restaurant I'd been to and hadn't liked. He referenced the restaurant by name, described my complaint about it almost word for word, and said something like, "You didn't seem too impressed from what I heard." I laughed automatically. A reflexive social laugh. My brain hadn't caught up yet. Then it did. I had never told him about that restaurant. I had never mentioned it in any text or on any call. That conversation had happened at work, in person with my coworker Sarah. I was certain I hadn't typed it anywhere. I hadn't posted about it. It was just a throwaway hallway conversation. I looked at him and said, "How did you know about that?" He paused. Something moved across his face. Not guilt exactly, more like the expression of someone who's realized they've said something they shouldn't have. He recovered fast. Said he thought I'd mentioned it. Must have been a different conversation. He gets mixed up sometimes, but the specificity had been too exact to be a mix-up. I kept my face neutral for the rest of brunch. Finished my food, laughed when appropriate, said goodbye warmly, drove home, and then I sat in my car in my parking garage and tried to figure out how he knew what I'd said in a hallway at work. There are a limited number of answers to that question. One was that someone who knew me had told him, but he didn't know any of my friends or colleagues. 2 was that I'd said it on a phone call while somewhere public, and he'd overheard, but I hadn't called anyone about that restaurant. 3 was that I was misremembering, and I had mentioned it somewhere. I went back through every text thread, every conversation, every app message, nothing. I looked at my phone settings that night. I hadn't changed them in a long time. I went through my app permissions, which apps had access to my microphone, which had access to my location. There was an app I'd downloaded 8 months ago for a fitness challenge at work. I'd given it microphone access because it had a feature that played audio. I'd forgotten about it completely. It was sitting on the 4th page of my apps, not something I'd opened in months. I'm not saying with certainty that the app was the explanation. I'm saying it was the only explanation I could find. I deleted it immediately and revoked every permission I'd given it. I also called my friend Danny, who knows a lot about phones. He said certain apps that collect data can capture ambient audio through open microphone permissions. He said it's controversial how common this is, but that it happens. He said the data can theoretically be accessed in ways that don't require the original user of the app. I asked him if that meant someone could listen through my phone. He said, if you gave the right app, the right permissions, and someone had access to the back end, theoretically, yes. I canceled on Jordan that week. I said something had come up. The week after that, I said I'd been really busy. The week after that, I said I didn't think I had the time to date seriously right now. He accepted each explanation. No pressure. No pushback. But on the last message he sent before I fully stopped responding, he said, "Let me know if you change your mind. I know you sometimes reconsider things once you've had time to think. I know you sometimes reconsider things," something I had said to my sister on the phone about a completely different situation. Not to Jordan. Not in any message. On the phone. Out loud. I've never told anyone the full story about Jordan. It sounds too strange to say out loud without proof. I don't have proof. I have 2 phrases he used that he shouldn't have known. That's it. It's not enough for police. It's not enough for anyone to act on. It was enough for me. I changed my phone that month. Full factory reset on the old one, new device, new passwords on everything, new permission settings locked down. I went through every single app I had and asked myself why it needed microphone access. If I couldn't answer that, I revoked it. I also started having certain conversations in my car with the windows up and my phone face down in the back seat. Is that paranoid? Maybe, but here's what I keep coming back to. He knew what I said in a hallway. He knew how I said it. He knew things that were only ever spoken out loud, somewhere between the app I'd forgotten about and the man I'd just started trusting. There was a line I still can't fully see. I just know something was listening, and for a while he was the one hearing it. Story 4. The first date was real, the second one was a trap. I would have walked right into it if his voice hadn't sounded wrong. I'm 33. I'm an accountant in Seattle, Washington. I work mostly remotely, which means my social life requires actual effort. It doesn't happen by accident the way it did when I was in an office every day. Dating apps were a reasonable solution to that problem. I'd had some okay experiences, some bad ones, nothing that made me quit entirely. I matched with a woman I'll call Priya in the fall. She was 30, worked in marketing, had photos from what looked like real life, a birthday dinner, a hiking trip, a photo with what was clearly a younger sibling. Not polished, genuine looking. We talked for about 2 weeks. She was witty and had strong opinions about things, which I like. She texted like a real person, typos occasionally, mid-thought changes of direction, the kind of natural conversation flow that's hard to fake. By the end of the 2 weeks, I was genuinely looking forward to meeting her. Our first date was coffee at a place in Capitol Hill. She was already there when I arrived. Looked exactly like her photos. We talked for over 2 hours. Covered everything from work to family to the specific kind of quiet that Seattle has in November that either depresses you or feels cozy depending on your personality. She thought it felt cozy, same as me. When we left, she said, "I'd really like to do this again." And I meant it when I said I would too. We texted regularly for the next week. Easy, comfortable conversation. She suggested the second date. dinner at a restaurant in Fremont she liked. She sent the name, I looked it up. It was a real place with good reviews and a busy Friday night scene. The Friday came. I drove to Fremont and parked 2 blocks from the restaurant. As I was walking over, she texted me, "Running about 10 minutes late. Can you go ahead and get us a table? Just tell them Priya's reservation." Fine. Normal. I went in, found the host, asked for Priya's reservation. The host checked and said there was no reservation under that name. I texted her. Told her there was no reservation. She replied immediately, "Oh no, they might have messed it up. Can you ask for a corner booth? I always request those. I'll be there in 5. I went back to the host, explained the situation, got seated at a corner booth. The restaurant was loud and full. A good busy Friday. I ordered water and looked at the menu. 11 minutes passed, I texted her. No read receipt. No reply. 12 minutes. 13. At 15, I called the number she'd given me. A man answered. Not a woman. Not Priya, a man. He said hello in a way that told me he'd been waiting for the call. I said, "Sorry, I think I have the wrong number." "I'm looking for Priya," he said. "She can't come to the phone. Why don't you sit tight? Someone will be by to handle your bill." He said, "Handle your bill, not pay your bill." Handle it? I hung up. My heart was already going. I looked around the restaurant. Busy, loud, people everywhere. I tried to think clearly. The person I'd been talking to for 2 weeks. Was any of it real? The first date, she had definitely shown up. That was a real person, or was it? I pulled up her profile on the app. Still active. Photos still there. I thought about what the man on the phone had said. Handle your bill. Like my bill was a problem. Like my bill was an excuse for someone to come to my table. I looked at the corner booth. My back was to the wall, which actually felt good. I could see the whole restaurant from where I was sitting. I could see the door. I could see who came in. I kept my phone in my hand and called my friend Greg, told him where I was, told him what had just happened, told him I was going to sit here for exactly 2 more minutes, and then I was walking out. He told me to leave now. Don't wait 2 minutes. Leave now. I put $30 on the table, more than enough for the water and whatever inconvenience, and I walked out the front door. On the sidewalk, I walked quickly toward my car without running. At the corner, I glanced back at the restaurant entrance. A man was standing outside it, big, dark jacket. He was scanning the sidewalk in both directions. I turned the other way and kept moving. Got to my car, locked the doors, called Greg back and told him what I'd seen. He stayed on the phone with me while I drove away. I filed a police report the next morning. The detective I spoke to asked me about the first date, the one where Priya had actually shown up. He asked me to describe her as carefully as I could. Then he asked, "When you were at coffee that first day, did you use your credit card?" I had. I'd paid for both coffees. He said, "That's how they know your full name. First dates in public, first date is real. She clocks your card when you pay. Now they have your name. With your name in your car, did she see your car at all?" I'd parked on the street. She'd walked me to it. He said, "With a name and a plate, it takes about an hour to find a home address, a work address, financial institutions. The second date is when they use it. You get separated from your card, your phone, your keys, or they use what they already know to access your accounts while someone keeps you occupied." He said this particular pattern, real first date to build trust, second date as the setup, was not the first time he'd seen it. The profile was taken down by the app within a day of my report. The phone number was disconnected. The restaurant had no record of a reservation. The woman from the first date, whoever she actually was never found. I think about the corner booth a lot. She had requested it specifically. She knew the restaurant. She'd been there before. The corner booth put my back to the wall and limited my exit options if someone sat down beside me. It was planned. Every part of it was planned, including the first date, including the 2 weeks of texting that felt so natural, including the typos that made it feel real. Someone put real work into building something that felt genuine enough to make me show up to a restaurant in a corner booth with my credit card and my keys and my full name. The only thing they didn't plan for was his voice. The man who answered her phone. He was supposed to be someone coming to handle my bill. He wasn't supposed to be the person who picked up when I called her number 10 minutes early. One wrong voice. That's all the gap was. I don't use dating apps the same way anymore. The changes I made are small, but they matter. I never pay with a card on a first date, cash only until I've verified who I'm actually sitting across from. I never walk someone to my car in the first 3 meetings. I look up the restaurant in advance and call ahead to verify the reservation actually exists. And if someone ever asks me to sit in a corner booth on a second date that they planned without telling me, I'm going to stay exactly where I can see the door, because the corner is where they want you, and the door is how you leave.